Saludos a todas, gracias a usted. Saludos a todos y todos los países miembros acá presentes. Vamos a iniciar pues esta plenaria. Se le agradece a todos la máxima colaboración, permanecer en sus espacios para que mantengamos orden y por supuesto a nuestros participantes para que se asuman los tiempos relacionados. Paso la voz a nuestro moderador, el señor Borhene, director de División de Políticas y Sistema de Aprendizaje Permanente, Sector de Educación de la UNESCO. Adelante.
شكرا سيدتي الرئيسة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا وسهلا بكم في هذه الورشة حول مستقبل العمل. سوف نتحدث بكل اللغات إن شاء الله، باللغة الإسبانية، بالعربية، بالإنجليزية، بالفرنسية وكل اللغات المتواجدة. Let me start by introducing the composition of our panels, and we have honorable speakers today. Let me first start by introducing Madame Kristina Persdotter, State Secretary at the Ministry of Education and Research, Sweden, who is joining us in person. My colleague, Mr. Srinivas Reddy, Branch Chief, International Labour Organization, ILO, is joining us online. We are missing Ms. Sarah Ruto, Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of Education in Kenya. Oh, you are here. Please join us. Thank you very much. And we have online as well His Excellency Erlangga Hartarto, Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs of Indonesia, and His Excellency Mr. Yunus Sekuri, Minister for Economic Inclusion, Small Businesses, Employment and Skills, Morocco. Permettez-moi de faire quelques mots d'introduction. À l'heure où notre conférence se déroule, la situation mondiale demeure fragile, la situation économique reste incertaine, les conflits, les perturbations des chaînes d'approvisionnement sont affectées et en conséquence, il y a encore des incertitudes sur l'évolution du marché du travail. Néanmoins, il y a des facteurs que nous connaissons qui vont déterminer le futur du travail. Pour en citer quelques-uns, la transformation numérique, l'industrie 4.0, la transformation et la transition vers une économie verte, les démographies et les mobilités. Il y a à ce propos une question et un ensemble de questions récurrentes qui se posent à tout le monde. Quels métiers apparaîtront? Quels métiers disparaîtront? Quels métiers recruteront le plus? Risque-t-on une pénurie de main-d'œuvre dans certains métiers et lesquels? Quelle stratégie de développement des compétences tout au long de la vie pour les individus, les économies et les sociétés? Quels sont les groupes cibles que nous devons protéger et que nous devons aider dans ces transitions? Les réponses intéressent différentes parties et différents acteurs. Les jeunes et les adultes qui réfléchissent sur leur carrière, dans quel métier ils peuvent s'engager, dans quel métier je veux m'engager et je veux développer mes compétences. Est-ce des métiers qui ont de l'avenir? Quel parcours de formation? Quel parcours de carrière je souhaite avoir? Les entreprises et les branches professionnelles qui veulent éviter de se retrouver en manque de main-d'œuvre et de compétences, qui veulent investir dans le développement des compétences de leurs employés. Les acteurs de la formation initiale et continue qui cherchent à adapter leur offre de formation aux besoins du marché et aux besoins des individus. Les pouvoirs publics en général qui cherchent les conditions de développement économique durable et inclusif, ainsi que les organisations internationales qui cherchent à aider les politiques publiques, la coopération internationale et la solidarité. Je vais commencer par les derniers acteurs, les organisations internationales, et je souhaite passer la parole à mon collègue Srinivas. Let me put it in English. Srinivas, I hope you are connected. Of course, ILO has been engaging in quite important work on the future of work, the International Commission on the Future of Work. ILO has priorities in this area in terms of development of skills within lifelong learning perspective to ensure inclusive and sustainable growth, productivity, and innovation. And of course, at the center of this is how to guarantee lifelong learning opportunities and possibilities for individuals, economies, and societies. So we would like to hear what are the ILO's with the International Labour Organization initiative in this context. I hope Srinivas is connected. Good afternoon, Srinivas. Thank you for joining us. Over to you. You are muted, Srinivas. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Borhene. Thank you very much for having me on this very important panel. First of all, I would like to congratulate the UNESCO Institute of Learning and the UNESCO team for taking up this very important and very topical topic for discussion. To prepare the adults for the future of work, the role of adult learning and education and work-based learning are very important. We have to not only prepare youth early for pursuit of decent jobs, but also support all women and men continuously for multiple transitions in the labor market, as people have to undertake multiple transitions, change many jobs due to profound changes that we are experiencing in the labor market, owing to technological changes, digital transformation, and green transformation, etc. So, but these, how do we provide access to people? This has to be done on the principle of social justice to address the needs of the most vulnerable. Today, we are living in increasingly divided societies. COVID-19 and multiple crises have exposed inequality, exclusion, and marginalization. Unequal access to education and skills development opportunities would perpetuate inequality, and in a way that will be felt far into the future. We are also facing the heightened level of uncertainty. In most countries, regardless of their stages of development, the ongoing social and economic transformation continue to raise a key question, as you already covered this important question: what will be the jobs of the future and what skills they require? This simple but fundamental question reflects the mismatch between jobs, skills, and people aspirations. Today, 207 million people are unable to find employment opportunities. At the same time, 69% of employers are struggling to find skilled workers they need for wages that they're willing to and able to pay. Moreover, more than 1 out of 5 youth are not in employment, education, or training. The gap between jobs, skills, and people's aspirations is one of the major barriers to accessing decent work. Adult learning and education play a very key and important role in bridging this gap. So let me now go straight to the question on the priority issue. Addressing this critical issue of priorities, in December 2021, the ILO member states and the employers and workers organizations from 187 member states gathered at the International Labour Conference and engaged in a 2-week discussion on skills and lifelong learning to set the priorities for the ILO for the foreseeable future. The conference has concluded and identified 22 key elements of effective skills and lifelong learning system. These elements provide actionable building principles. Let me just highlight 3 of the 22 key elements identified by the conference. Firstly, there is a very strong need to develop a coherent skills development and lifelong learning strategy that coordinates very importantly, policies and programs and strategies relating to economic, fiscal, education, and employment. And these policies need to be developed through a process of social dialogue involving the key labor market players, which is the employers and workers organizations, in addition to all key government agencies, the education players, and civil society, followed by a robust governance structure for developing the education and lifelong learning and skills development policies. Secondly, the importance of promoting access to lifelong learning. This is a very, very important topic. How can we really promote universal access to skills and lifelong learning? The key elements that need to be addressed are sufficient funding and incentive mechanisms to promote lifelong learning for all. And thirdly, providing flexible learning options are also a very important priority to ensure equitable access to skills development, especially by the vulnerable populations. As the world is making a shift towards more and more blended learning opportunities, combining face-to-face and online and distance, the use of technology is key to ensure that these flexible learning options are assessed, recognized, and certified in a dynamic way. So how can we ensure the public policy? There is a very clear gap in public policy in terms of capturing the competencies and skills acquired by the people on a continuum basis after they complete the initial education. So a credible, at the same time, affordable, continuous recognition system, assessment and recognition system is vital for people to be able to use the skills they acquire through the lifelong learning. Regarding the issues relating to the possibility to address individual and societal aspirations, in order to guarantee that lifelong learning offers possibility to address individual and societal aspirations, there are some important actions that need to be considered. Firstly, development of labor market information system and support for skills needs anticipation that will assist the member states in anticipating the skills required for the changing labor market situations. I would like to place for your consideration, when we are talking about changing labor market, skills for the new economies like digital, green, and care economies are very important to see. In addition to the priority sectors, economic sectors that a country want to champion, what are the new opportunities that the new economies are offering in digital, green, and care economies, and then prepare people. So increasing investments in preparing people, in developing their capacities is very, very important. Secondly, leveraging the digitalization of skills development, adult and lifelong learning, including the technical and vocational education training system, is another important element to scale up the skills delivery. By utilizing appropriately blended learning opportunities, more can be done with the same amount of resources, done well. We need to really take into account that digitalization should not leave a lot of people behind. So the access to digital equipment, materials, tools, similarly also access to bandwidth, in some cases electricity, uninterrupted electricity, basic equipment like a laptop and other elements have to be really provided for all, really leaving no one behind. Finally, we need to also harness workplaces as learning places. It's very important that we need to provide opportunities for people to learn wherever and whenever and in whatever fashion they like. So the more we prepare workplaces as learning places through, for example, apprenticeships for young adults and also adult workers, can be a game changer. We have seen numerous examples of young adults making successful career changes through adult apprenticeship programs. Among all sizes of enterprises, there is particularly a strong need to support small and micro enterprises and informal businesses in their skilling and reskilling efforts, because still it is a reality, hundreds of millions of people work in informal economy in several parts of the world. So how do we take care of the needs of the informal economy unless we really support the small and medium enterprises in those areas? And not last but not the least, there is a strong need to strengthen career development support systems, including career guidance for people to make successful transitions, either school to work transition or job to job transitions. A continuous career guidance system is embedded, has to be embedded in the adult learning and education systems. So in conclusion, I would like to submit to the conference that adult learning and education are critical for human-centered recovery that is inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. And from the ILO side, we stand ready to partner. We are already having excellent collaboration and partnership with UNESCO, and ILO would be very happy to continue the collaboration. Thank you very much, Borhene.
Thank you very much, Srinivas, for this very insightful presentation. Let me ask again colleagues who are connected with us and who would like to ask questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and of course we will try to respond to those questions, and at the end of the session the chairperson will indicate which question we'll be taking forward. Let me move to the next speakers, and j'espère que Son Excellence Monsieur Younes Sekouri est avec nous en ligne.
Oui, oui, je suis là.
Ah, très bien. Bonjour monsieur et bienvenue. Nous venons d'entendre monsieur Srinivas Reddy de l'ILO, et quand il présentait, il parlait en quelque sorte de 23 mesures importantes que le collègue de l'OIT propose pour rencontrer en quelque sorte les besoins et essayer de répondre aux besoins en compétences dans une perspective d'apprentissage tout au long de la vie. Ça montre en quelque sorte la complexité de la conduite de ce type de réforme et de changement. Il a insisté également sur les questions de la formation professionnelle et la réforme de la formation professionnelle. Le Maroc est un pays précurseur qui a engagé une série de réformes, et si vous permettez, nous voulons entendre de votre part, d'une part, quelles sont les évolutions récentes dans ce domaine au Maroc, mais également quels sont les plans qui permettent d'engager une innovation, une créativité dans le secteur, par exemple en termes de transition vers les économies vertes, et quels sont les plans que vous mettez en place. À vous, Monsieur le Ministre.
Merci beaucoup. Tout d'abord, à mon grand regret, je n'ai pas pu être physiquement avec vous parce que depuis quelques jours, je me suis aperçu que j'étais positif à la COVID-19. Et donc, ce sont les équipes du ministère qui sont sur place, et malheureusement, je n'ai pas pu faire le déplacement physiquement. Mais je me réjouis de me joindre à vous par Zoom. Effectivement, j'ai entendu comme vous l'intervention de mon prédécesseur, et j'étais à Genève la semaine dernière pour effectivement participer aux travaux de l'Organisation internationale du travail. J'ai envie de faire le distinguo entre deux choses. Vous savez, quand vous êtes à l'échelle de la décision d'un gouvernement, il vaut mieux simplifier. Autrement, vous n'arriverez pas à percer, vous n'arriverez pas à créer de la différence, et vous n'arriverez sûrement pas à faire avancer les choses de façon progressive. Pour ce qui est du Maroc, l'important pour nous est de positionner la question de façon à ce que nous puissions développer ce qu'on appelle la stratégie du comment. Le diagnostic est assez bien fait, assez bien partagé. La complexité et les différents niveaux par rapport à l'apprentissage des adultes est aujourd'hui connu grâce notamment au travail qui est fait par l'UNESCO et par les experts. Donc pour nous, il s'agit effectivement de choisir et de trouver les bonnes trajectoires, les bons circuits pour pouvoir mettre en œuvre des politiques efficaces qui vont changer la donne au fur et à mesure. Et vos deux questions, qui sont les évolutions dans le secteur de la formation professionnelle, qui est au cœur de cette stratégie de transformation de l'apprentissage des adultes, et naturellement la deuxième question qui est celle de l'innovation en la matière, sont toutes les deux très importantes. Alors, pour la première question, j'ai envie de dire que effectivement le Maroc a fait des efforts très importants dans le domaine ou dans le secteur de la formation professionnelle. Des sujets que vous connaissez peut-être. D'abord, le Maroc dispose d'une feuille de route en bonne et due forme pour la formation professionnelle. Il a démarré un travail très important de développement de la capacité d'accueil. et du dispositif de la formation professionnelle. C'est réel, c'est des centaines d'instituts nouveaux qui ont vu le jour et qui continuent à voir le jour. Il a naturellement travaillé sur une question importante que vous avez évoquée et que mon prédécesseur a évoquée, c'est consacrer le milieu de travail comme espace privilégié pour l'acquisition des compétences. Parce que pour être efficace, il va falloir former les gens là où ils travaillent. Il va falloir que leur formation corresponde à des besoins que le marché exprime de façon directe à l'échelle microscopique. Il n'y a pas mieux que l'entreprise comme espace pour pouvoir formaliser ces demandes et faire matcher ces besoins à ces demandes-là. Mais le problème qui se pose, c'est que sur les 85% d'entreprises du tissu économique marocain, 85% sont des micro-entreprises, c'est-à-dire avec des revenues, des chiffres d'affaires moins de 3 millions de dirhams. Et 95% sont des TPME. Les 85% emploient 70% de la main-d'œuvre aujourd'hui qui est déclarée dans le secteur formel. Ces 85% sont les entreprises qui ont le moins de moyens pour pouvoir mener de vraies politiques de ressources humaines dans lesquelles la formation en général, la formation continue en particulier, l'upskilling et le reskilling peuvent se faire. Et donc, la nécessité d'une intervention de l'État est fondamentale. C'est pour ça que ce gouvernement a mis en tête de priorité la réforme du système des contrats spéciaux de formation qui, pour vous résumer, c'est ce fameux système qui permet, à travers la taxe de la formation professionnelle, de financer les formations continues qui se passent. Alors, il y a plusieurs façons de faire. L'une des façons de faire, c'est de travailler avec les fédérations, c'est-à-dire des fédérations sectorielles qui appartiennent à la Confédération générale des entreprises du Maroc, à travers des besoins de secteur. Nous avons fait des efforts très importants sur ce sujet. Nous avons développé ce qu'on appelle des instituts à gestion déléguée, avec un certain nombre de fédérations, l'aéronautique, l'électronique, l'automobile, mais également d'autres. Et aujourd'hui, nous arrivons effectivement à des résultats très probants. La question qui touche à la transition vers les métiers verts, la question qui touche à cette innovation qui est nécessaire est aujourd'hui également au cœur des intérêts du Maroc. Ce que nous avons fait, c'est que nous avons créé ce qu'on appelle les IFMERE. Ce sont des instituts aussi à gestion déléguée dans 3 régions du Maroc où l'on forme aux métiers verts. Naturellement, vous allez me dire que ce n'est jamais suffisant parce que ce sont 3 instituts sur l'ensemble de l'échelle du pays. Mais je peux vous dire que ce sont des instituts avant-gardistes qui se rajoutent à tout l'effort qui est fait par le Maroc, notamment à travers les 12 cités des métiers et des compétences que Sa Majesté a lancées il y a 2 ans de cela. Les travaux sont très, très avancés pour une capacité de 35 000 personnes. Et là, nous avons aussi un modèle de gouvernance très innovant. Bon, sans trop vous charger par, je dirais, les réalisations du Maroc qui sont consultables sur l'Internet et dans les différents rapports, j'ai juste envie de dire que nous avons un objectif de cibler, les personnes qui travaillent au sein des entreprises, et la solution, c'est une réforme du système de la formation continue dans lequel nous sommes très avancés. Nous sommes au 4e mois de travail avec l'ensemble des acteurs et je pense qu'entre 2022 et 2023, nous allons pouvoir sortir cette réforme qui n'a pas vu le jour depuis 20 ans au Maroc. 2. Nous sommes en train de nous occuper également de tous ceux qui vont perdre leurs emplois dans le cadre de l'indemnité de perte d'emploi, de l'IPE. Car ce sont des gens qui vont sortir du circuit des entreprises qui peuvent financer directement leur effort d'apprentissage et nous sommes à la recherche de modes de financement innovants, solidaires pour pouvoir prendre en charge cette population dans un effort notamment de reskilling et peut-être, pourquoi pas, d'upskilling. Troisièmement, nous avons le devoir de continuer dans le cadre et dans le prolongement du discours de Sa Majesté, que Dieu l'assiste hier, cet effort leader avec tous les pays qui sont volontaires pour pouvoir continuer à suivre les évolutions dans ce domaine et apporter des solutions innovantes qui, comme vous le savez très très bien, sont foncièrement la question du financement qui doit être solidaire entre un monde qui travaille, qui continue à fonctionner, qui a les moyens de ses ambitions malgré ses dysfonctionnements, et un autre monde qui est soit dans l'informel, et pour cela nous avons pensé à un Small Business Act que nous sommes en train de traiter au Maroc, un projet révolutionnaire au Maroc qui n'a pas vu le jour et qui va voir le jour dans les mois qui viennent et qui traite des questions de l'auto-entrepreneur, de la micro-entreprise, des unités économiques de l'informel pour ramener tout ce monde-là au formel et pouvoir le rentrer dans un circuit de financement et d'accompagnement pour l'apprentissage des adultes.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Monsieur le Ministre, pour cette présentation qui nous donne les grandes lignes de la réforme, mais également de ce qui est prévu comme priorité en termes de politique publique, des partenariats que vous avez engagés. Je vous souhaite un bon et rapide rétablissement et j'espère qu'on aura d'autres occasions pour se voir en présentiel. Let me now move to the next speakers, and we are pleased to have with us His Excellency Erlangga Hartarto, Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs of Indonesia. Mr. Hartarto, are you with us?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I hope all colleagues in Jakarta are well. And we know that this year Indonesia is the chair of the G20, and we know how much the country has set as a priority the solidarity and international cooperation in its agenda, and we would like to thank you for that. We just listened to His Excellency Minister Sekuri, and he was presenting quite important initiatives related to the public policies, related to public-private partnership. And I must say that when we are looking at the new economy today, we are speaking about these twin economies, transition to green and transition to Industry 4.0. We would like to know from you what are the initiatives that and the policies that have been put in place in Indonesia on vocational training and lifelong learning initiative. What focus are you having, for example, related to digital skills? How you are targeting these different target groups, and the minister was mentioning 3 of them, for example, workers, young people entering the labor market, but also people who are unemployed or who are at risk of losing their employment. And we also know that in Indonesia there is a quite strong public-private partnership, so how you are involving private provision in this case, and what are the challenges that you are facing? Over to you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Excellency Mr. Borhene, for this opportunity. I really regret cannot join you in person due to the task that we cannot. I'm not allowed to leave Jakarta. But allow me to share Indonesia experience in the preparing for future of works. Of course, we are also facing a problem with digital transformations, which is in sectors such as Industry 4.0, and then the increase of mobility, as well as due to the COVID pandemic. There are a few issues that we have to respond, that there is Indonesian peoples who have difficulties in obtaining the job during the COVID, as well as to make them prepare for a new job that is required a new skill. So basically what the government do is to create a new program that we call the program that is digital program from G to P, from government to the people. The program was established during the COVID pandemic, and the program is fully digital from end to end. And the program, the government create a new institutions which run the program. The program is open for all Indonesian peoples, and the program only provide an access through the digital ecosystems. So we call the program is a pre-employment card, or in Bahasa is Kartu Prakerja. The program for the very first time established around 7 platforms and providing almost 150 training providers, as well as providing 1,000 training courses. And when the program also having a target
Sorry, we lost you, Your Excellency. I think there is an issue with the microphone. Can you try again? We still cannot hear you, sorry. Sorry, sir, we still cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. Can you check your mic, please?
Check. Okay. Can you hear me?
Excellent, we can hear you now. Please, sir.
Yeah, the government launched a program that we call a pre-employment card that is fully a digital program from G to P, from government to the peoples. The program is established during the COVID pandemic and targeted to the people who lost jobs and for the people that needs to do retraining and reskilling. And the program consists of 7 platforms and around 150 training providers and 1,000 training courses. The government run this program as semi-social protection, in which we are giving to the people around $70 to obtain a course. So price of the course is around $15 to $20. So they are obliged to take digital courses in person. Once they get 1 or 2 digital courses, they are eligible to get a social protection, social program, in which equivalent to $40 per month. So there are many courses and many program that is run through a digital platform. And during the program in the last 2 years, during the pandemic COVID, we are able to attract more than 115 million of Indonesian people who would like to register into the program. And we do the selection of the people who are eligible. Either they are not working, they are not in the university, and they are not getting any of other social benefit from the government. So when they are eligible, then they run into the program. During the 2 years, there are 12.8 million people are graduate from this program. And when we run the survey, out of the 12.8 million people, the 2% of the participants are with disability, and 18% of graduate is from primary schools or less, and then 60% are from rural area, and then 49% are women, and 90% of them who join the program are not working at that moment. And with this, around 20% of the participants having no bank account before. So it's really that the program is inclusive, and the program supporting the peoples, and most of the graduate, around 20% is becoming entrepreneurs, and around 40% they change job or they are able to work in other sectors. There are many success stories through the program of this free job employment card. And at the moment, we are also using the latest digital technology, such as AI, database, as well as the face recognition program. So the program is effective, and the program can really select the participants through the AI database system. And I think the program is one of a kind that use the digital platform that's directly from the government treasury to the peoples. And 90% of the participants who join the program, they prefer to use e-wallet rather than normal banking or traditional banking. I think this program that Indonesia is promoting, most of the cases that is chosen by the people is digital related, and then also the consumer services based related, as well as in the food and beverage small and medium enterprises sector that they choose to do the training. I think I would like to share those stories, so I hand over to you, Mr. Borhene.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for sharing this very important experience regarding the pre-employment card. I think this ecosystem that you have created is impressive, and the scale that you have reached is also very important. And in a way, this combination of using the technology to offer learning opportunities, but also equipping people with the skills that are required, including the digital skills, is an important combination. Thank you very much for joining us, and please stay with us. There might be questions in the discussion. Let me now move to Ms. Sarah Ruto, Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of Education in Kenya. We just heard about this pre-employment card. It reminded me of the M-Pesa, and Kenya has been the country that has promoted M-Pesa and that has lifted from poverty millions of people through these investments. But today we are not speaking about M-Pesa, we are speaking about another important initiative that the Kenyan government has been putting in place, a reform of curricula and reform of qualification system to establish a competency-based framework, and also to offer lifelong learning opportunities leveraging the competency-based framework. I think one of the issue that came also from Minister Sekuri is the economic fabric. We tend to speak about the private sector and the economy as if it is homogeneous, but in reality, we have advanced economy, we have digital economy, we have informal economy, and we have SMEs and small and medium enterprises, self-entrepreneurs. And this is important that we take the lifelong learning perspective in this discussion and look at the workplace in this perspective. And we would like to hear from you how you are responding in particular to the informal economy, how the competency-based framework and the qualification framework can support people who are in informal economy to leverage the potential of lifelong learning and to get equipped with the right skills to thrive in the labor market and in life more broadly. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and for giving Kenya this opportunity to share what we are doing. Indeed, in Kenya at the moment, we are in our third major educational transition since we got our independence in the 1960s. And it has ushered in a competency-based approach, but it is also a reform that is happening within a lifelong-based perspective, because we all know what SDG 4 tells us, urges us to do, and many aspects in the SDG 4 have always been with us. Since we got our independence, we have been about seeking quality, seeking equity, but now it has brought in lifelong-based education. And so we think there are certain lessons in the competency-based reforms that we are seeing that could provide energy, could provide a new outlook as we are thinking about lifelong learning. So what are these? And let me just give a few examples. The first thing that has happened within the major reform that we are seeing is the conceptualization. And visioning is very important. We are now conceptualizing education as starting from the early years education and continuing throughout the life journey. So we are de-emphasizing talking about our structure of education as 844, but more thinking about it as a life journey, a journey that begins early. In fact, one of the terms we are now using is from the womb to the tomb. And we have also come up with certain competencies, certain things that we are stressing in the education that will help us in this lifelong journey. So one of the 7 competencies in the competency-based approach is learning to learn. And so we are saying, as a child, you must make space to learn. And it is a competence not just for children, but also for their teachers. So even in the teacher training institutions, of the 9 competencies teacher trainees are going through, are embracing, a key one is learning to learn, and many others, citizenship. And these are not unique to us, because after all, formal education is not unique to Kenya, and we have borrowed a lot from the international community. So we think that this early socialization is important, because if someone, as previous speakers have said, thinks that learning stops, then you sit back. But when you socialize early and put in these practices, hopefully they will be with our children, and that they might be better adults than we are, and have a better approach to learning than we have. Secondly, we have also brought in certain competencies through the subjects of focus that will support children as they grow and also become adults to learn. And one of them is the Indigenous learning, Indigenous languages. For a long time, our policies make space for Indigenous languages, but we have not really brought it to the curriculum. Today, in fact, as of September, we are admitting our first teacher trainees who are doing diploma in secondary education, and they are going to focus in Indigenous languages. They will select which Indigenous language. They will be trained. So adult programs will no longer be lonely, because it is mainly in adult programs that we were talking that, let learners, adults be supported in their languages. Now we have brought it also to other forms of learning. The other example that I'd like to give, which is very important for us, is that we have defined and articulated spaces also for parents as adults to come in. So the formal curriculum is making space for parents to be part of that curriculum. So critical pillars in our competency, in our reforms today are parental empowerment and engagement is a key pillar of education, value-based education, community service and learning. And by making space for parents, we are urging them to come, and they grumble a lot. Many parents will say, why are you making us come? But we want to encourage parents to also support their children, to also retain that curiosity of learning. So an example of primary 2 topic that we have is that children are told together with your guardian, and we stress this to the children, because parents always say learning is for school, but we are telling them, together with your guardian, go and observe the sky. And the parents complain a lot about such a simple thing. Does it need literacy to do such a thing? Observe with your child what you're seeing in the sky? It doesn't. But I think some adults have lost the curiosity to learn, and we are inviting them back through certain aspects in the formal curriculum, and asking them to please be willing learners. That's the thing we are finding very difficult in the competency-based approach, where adults don't want to be part of the learning process. I could give other examples where we are giving more clarity. So what is the vision, so that I can answer your question more clearly? Our vision in the reforms that we are going through is that we want to reclaim that all children, irrespective of their social standing, physical standing, irrespective of that, are able to attain their basic education in school, so that we release adult education, adult learning programs to do more of the continuing programs. Because at the moment, the focus is still on addressing literacy, illiteracy, and yet we feel that with the changes we are seeing, we need to be doing adult programs, to be doing more of continuing education, continuing learning, connecting to the industry, and all that. And so if we tighten basic education, we shall allow then adult programs to be complementary, to add on, rather than doing what basic education has failed to do. Secondly, we want, and continuing with that, to reinvigorate our Directorate of Adult Learning and other forms, so that it can address the challenges. Let me borrow the M-Pesa example that you have used. Today, many adults are vulnerable to fraud because they have moved to digital forms of financial, the way they transact their financial business. But there's a lot of fraud. And so it is important that now our digital literacy, digital financial literacy, moves from incidental, which has been the main thing, to a more non-formal format, structured learning, where people learn a little bit more about how to use this M-Pesa format, but in a safe way that doesn't put you and your money in danger. Lastly, because I can see the chairperson looking at me like my 8 minutes are over, and I'm conscious you didn't.
I'm admiring you, not looking at you for the time. Getting inspired by what you are saying, please.
I will just conclude by stating that the reforms that we are seeing need a sector-wide government approach. So one of the things that we have come up with is an authority known as the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. And one of the things it has come up with is recognition of prior knowledge, that everybody, because they are able to learn throughout and learn in different formats, it is important to have systems of recognizing what they have learned and putting it in a structure and a format that makes sense for the business, for the industry. And this is a product that has been received very well, and we think that it's important that when lifelong learning goes, and because of the way our societies are structured, we have a way of recognizing this learning, putting it in a way that makes sense when you're procuring items, so that a person who is a lifelong learner and who gets learning out of experience is not criminalized because they do not have certification that goes with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sarah Ruto. It was very inspiring, but also you brought for us things that we didn't discuss earlier, I think, in the different presentation, the importance of the intergenerational dimension of the lifelong learning, bringing also the community level and I would say a whole of society approach. So I think this is something that I believe is very important, in addition to, of course, the specific aspect related to the reform and the link with the qualification frameworks. I would like now to move to Ms. Christina Persdotter, State Secretary at the Ministry of Education and Research, Sweden. Yesterday we were impressed by some of the announcements that you mentioned. I was calculating how much it will cost almost 200 euros, 50 weeks, around 10,000 euros, which seems quite generous from the perspective of lifelong learning entitlement. We know that in some countries, like in France, it's around 500 euros per year. In Singapore, is around 500 Singapore dollars per year. So it seemed quite generous, but we would like to hear from that on that also from your side. But maybe just to put some background, in January 2022, the Swedish government decided on a historical transition package to improve flexibility, adaptability, and security in the labor market. And I think Sarah, by ending, was referring to the sector-wide approach, but it seems that from the Swedish perspective is more a whole-of-society approach, involving, of course, public sector, but also social partners, educational stakeholders. And in a way, the objective is, I think, is something that comes in our discussion quite clear, is how we can set up flexible learning pathways that can support individuals in their transition from one job to another, from learning to job, from job to learning. And this flexibility, of course, is a critical one. And in a way, it relates also to what the Futures of Education report yesterday was mentioned on, how we are able to connect these learning spaces. Workplace is a learning space, and the minister referred to that, and Srinivas referred to that. But also, there are different spaces like online spaces and other spaces that are important. So we would like to know a bit how you are leveraging all these spaces, how you are building lifelong learning pathways that are supportive for each of individuals, and how you are not leaving behind anybody. Over to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the possibility to speak on this very important issue of preparing adults for the future of work. I want to start with stressing that lifelong learning is a cornerstone of democracy. So taking this broad perspective that Chairperson mentioned, that good quality education, both formal and non-formal, includes the development of skills such as critical thinking, media and information literacy, and collaborative thinking, among other skills. These skills, which are important for the functioning of democracy, but are also vital for the modern labor market and sustainable transition. Skills that we need to be active citizens are not separate from the skills needed in the labor market. And the green transition and the digitalization are transforming today's labor market and the way we live, that we know. But also we see that tomorrow's labor market must be transformed even further if we are to reach the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And with that in mind, the Swedish government is launching the greatest reform package on the Swedish labor market in modern times. And yes, it's very expensive. It's a 11 million euros a year reform package. And Sweden has, as you said, also a long-standing tradition of the social partners negotiating the rules of the labor market. And this reform package has been developed in close consultation with the social partners and take a holistic approach and covers both labor market reform and as well as a policy to ensure that lifelong learning can become a practical reality for all. And the centerpiece of the package is this new student finance scheme for re- and upskilling that I had opportunity to mention in the ministerial panel yesterday. And the scheme ensures that individuals who are in the middle of their lives, as I said, with children and mortgages, they will now be in a much greater position to take time off work in order to re- or upskill or even to change their careers entirely. And the scheme will ensure that a person will be able to study for up to 1 year. That is 44 weeks as we count it when it comes to the education sector. And for the vast majority, grants and loans will be equivalent to at least 80% of their wages. And this is a historic reform which marks a new chapter in Swedish education and labor market policy. And as I said, it will make all the difference for individuals who want to re- or upskill, but it will also benefit the Swedish businesses and public sector, which will have better skilled labor. And that is a necessity to make the green and digital transition a reality. The Swedish government's ambition is to lead the green transition of the economy. We have made the shift of seeing this as a cost to look upon it as an investment. If we invest in skills needed for the green transition, our companies can then export green products and green solutions. We also see that this new student finance scheme will, of course, increase the demand for adult education, vocational education and training, higher vocational education, and also university education. And the entire education sector is now preparing to meet this new demand. But we're not entirely sure what the demand will look like. And the way people want to learn can also have changed with their experience of learning during the pandemic. Will it mainly be part-time or full-time studies? We'll see. Mainly distance, blended, or in classroom. We're not yet sure, but my guess is blended. That is the new normal. But we are quite sure that there will be a higher demand for validation of already acquired knowledge and competences, and also a higher demand for supplementary courses. And we would like to see more education programs that will make transition possible from one labor market sector or occupation to another sector or occupation. And one piece to this development is that the government has launched a 1-year-long teacher program for academics. So in 1 year, an academically educated person can make use of their prior knowledge and skills, supplement with a 1-year-long teacher program, and then enter the teaching profession. And looking forward, I see that this setup with validation and supplementary courses or programs will and must be a bigger part of the education sector. One more important thing to make this new student finance scheme work well, and also for the entire education sector to work well in correlation with the very fast-changing labor market is the need for better data. Valid data are essential to understanding the rapidly changing nature of the labor market and how that needs to impact the education sector. The government is therefore tasked as many as 9 government agencies to develop a digital infrastructure for lifelong learning, and the task is to make sure that data from the education sector and data from the labor market sector can work together. For example, when we collect data about competencies in the education sector and in the labor market, we need to mean the same thing. And I see that the issues of taxonomy and data will be of great interest to us all. The government, of course, need to monitor and evaluate the scheme going forward. And one thing that worries is that I see the risk that already well-educated will use this new student finance scheme to a larger extent than the less well-educated on the labor market, and that